Greetings, dears. That was a pretty good sign, don't you think? No great pops and crunches. Hello, dear.
I see you're back in a body again.
Only occasionally. I notice you are too.
Some things never change.
I love Phoenix's clowns. Especially now that it seems to be plural. Clowns. All right, March was a big month. So you're cast out into the outer reaches.
He'll start panting.
I told her the front row does it anyway.
But is that a problem?
He pants kind of loud.
Well, that might be a problem for you, love, but it's certainly not a problem for me. Do you see that? She's trying to keep a dog away from me.
Blasphemy. I told her it wouldn't work.
That's just wrong. And now he's saying, I liked it better out there. It feels really different in here. All right, March, really big month. How did you do with the energy peak at the equinox? Yes?
It was really amazing. You could really feel the energy, and I felt light and buzzy, and yeah, it was just really palpable to me for a couple of days.
Very nice. Aye.
I always know when it begins because I wake up at 4 a.m. just like bright and bushy-tailed. You know, it's like, okay, so I'm awake and this is great. But so I experienced that, but when I did manage to go back to sleep, my dreams were amazing. They were wonderful. And they're totally, the character of the dreams, totally different than anything I've ever had before.
Nice.
And they were all really had to do with spirit in one way or another, all of them. And it was and how it translates through into form, some of them. It was wonderful, and every day I was like, wow, what a gift. So yeah, and also too, being with friends and experiencing journeys of the spirit too were really wonderful as well.
Ooh, nicely said. Aye. Just hand raise. Anybody else having or noticed you had very interesting dreams through the big energy flow? Well, good. Glad to know it. Cam, was your hand up as well? All right.
He's calling.
Oh, you're calling on me? Oh, to share a dream?
Or I'm taunting you. Which do you think? Your hand was up. Too bad. All right. No.
Oh, no, that was to say that I had interesting dreams.
Oh. All right. So we're talking about the equinox energy.
I noticed I had been doing what you had been talking about to talk with our 12. And I noticed that
And what was it I had been talking about?
that we would be making contact with that, and we were
Okay.
talking about creator energy, particularly during the times before the equinox. And I've
Actually, what I said was it could be a good time for doing that. Not that it would necessarily happen, but you're saying
I'm
it did.
finding that it was almost instantaneous.
Nice.
Just asking for help, thinking just kind of quick thoughts that something I wanted to manifest, and it was just like that. So,
Good work. Good work. Anybody notice emotional changes during that poor time? Anybody want to talk about it?
Well, I usually just feel a little bit on edge, you know, just kind of jittery and a little like.
Aye. Some felt really knocked into a depressive kind of state about that time. And you know that I always say that extremes of either kind are saying that you're getting it. But to remember that what you're getting is an amplification of what's going on with you. So pay attention to that, especially pay attention if what you experience during times of great energy bursts is a lot of this. Now, of course, your life is all about the grand roller coaster ride of this experience. But when it's sharper highs, lower lows, let that be a means of paying attention to what you are emitting into the world, because that's being accelerated. So pay attention there. How about your sense of humor? Well, I think it's very clear that at least one person in here's sense of humor was brought forth, but what about your sense of humor? Anything going on there? Are you laughing more at things going on in your life?
Yeah.
Because that's a perspective that's important. Humor is eternal. Laughter is eternal. Using that, sometimes pulling it out when you did not really have such a great sense of humor before, is a sign that you've been touched by love. And receiving more love makes you laugh more. So think about that. And also put yourself into places where you are surrounded by those that get you laughing. Anybody else want to share their equinox experience? If not, I will move. All right.
I was, during the equinox, writing the ritual for last night,
Good timing.
and it flowed so easily. And I found everything creative in my life was given an extra boost and was flowing. And
Good.
also completions.
As it should have been. Good. And completions. Good, very good. Well, that's all of those doorways. I kind of have stopped reminding you that all of these great opportunities with open doors means that you're going to be closing down some things. Because then some of you tend to get a little nervous. Closing down what? But that's absolutely the case when you are opening up, particularly with creativity. When you are opening up and moving through, your completions become more obvious to you because you are moving forward instead of looking backward. And that's a huge change in every life. This is April. How many of you have birthdays in April? A few, not as many as February. So not only is April a grand month for celebrating each other, Jem, when are you?
April 9th.
And Paula, when are you?
20th.
So big celebrations right there. there are also other things celebrated this month. What is this month about in your Gregorian world?
Laughter for April Fool's Day.
April Fool's Day, a day to celebrate
Foolishness.
foolishness. Yes.
April show.
Earth Day on the 22nd.
Lovely. Earth Day. Sort of like Mother's Day.
Easter.
April showers.
April showers. Well, in Kentucky especially, yes? Aye. Easter in this particular time. Right, not every year. Again?
The first we saw.
The first Vesak, yes. You've just had, I guess it wasn't exactly April, you've just had a full moon, blue moon, and that's always something to pay attention to.
Time to give part of our proceeds back to the government. Tax deadline,
Ah, yes.
completion with last year's funds.
And that's a good way to think of it. Completion with your year's worth of manifestation. Because with that manifestation, that means that your government says, well, I'm going to manifest by way of your manifestation. And you allow it in exchange for what?
Schools, road, education,
Good.
lots of stuff.
Bombs.
Fresh money.
Yeah.
Insurance?
Health insurance. We get Medicare.
Ah, yes, all right, for social aid of different kinds, sure. And if not panting or anything. What he is doing is making Quinn very unhappy because Quinn wants to run and play with him.
In a big way.
So it's a good month for giving back where you have been receiving. What else do you think of with April?
Time to get those lawnmowers out.
Hopefully, if there's not too many April showers.
Think of the retreat.
The retreat is very often in April, and this retreat is going to be very surprising.
It's not really a celebration, but maybe in times past it has been. But it is a month where you really need to take stock of what it is you want to plant and to get your ground ready for it.
Right.
Seeds in order to grow what will start growing in May and June, July.
And at this end of your country, well, end isn't correct, but at this place in your country, it's not a good idea, except for cold weather things, to actually plant. It's the preparation for that's really good. And I would go so far as to tell you that April is about preparation in a multitude of different ways. Prepare your taxes, prepare your garden, prepare yourself. It's a time of preparation, and in the case of high-frequency beings, what you are preparing for is next month. April is somewhat of a break. Now, as I said at the end of last year, you're not going to have any months this year that don't have some energy flow more than usual. But around the equinoxes and the solstices, you're going to be having massive input. So when I say April is going to be an easy month, it's not that there are no energy transmissions coming your way. It's just that they're not going to be worldwide. They're not going to be as intense. And so think of that as a bit of a break. Preparing. Now, I had a lot of fun at a recent leadership meeting here at Phoenix, asking the group a couple of questions. And I'm going to ask them of you and would like for you to really think it through. If you have paper, write these things out. If you do not, hold them in your mind and keep them there so that you can refer. This is about preparation, all right? I just want you to remember that that's where I'm going with this. And I think that I'm going to shift this just a little, looking around and realizing how many of you were already at that meeting. So I'm going to shift it a bit and still ask you these questions about preparation. The first one is looking at your last month, all right? This past month. If you could have changed anything, but only one thing, what would it be? And are you making that change because it was something that didn't work out real well, or because you want more of a good thing? What one thing would you change from your last few weeks? Now, I'm not asking you to answer this out loud. My next question is, if you could make a change of anything in your life, circumstances, people, doesn't matter. If you could change any one thing in your life, what would that be? How would you change it? For instance, I would change this experience that happened in childhood. I would prefer never to have met this person. I would like to have done this in my life. What would you do? So think about that for a moment. I'm not asking you to tell it. I'm just asking you to think that through. Now, with regard to the first thing I asked you, and the second thing I asked you, one is about anything you might change in your past 3-4 weeks, and the second one is anything you would change in your life as a whole. What is the same about those two things? What is the same? Because there is a connection to all things. There is similarity in the good things and the not so good things that happen in your life. So what is in common? Is it that they're both things you did not like? Are they things that have to do with people? Are they things that have to do with things? Are they issues? Are they laughter and joy? What is in common with those two things? And that's going to lead me to the question that I ask leadership. What do you need to do to make those two things happen? To make those changes happen? Because there is no reason for you to be unable to change your past or direct your future. You can do that. But what do you need to do to make that happen? And I'm not asking you, this is just a little aside. It's not for a discussion. It's for your internal thinking. This is about preparation. So what do you need to do to prepare to have more of the good and less of the I'd rather not go through that again in your life? And with leadership, just so you can play with that as well, I ask leadership, right now, how would you describe what's going on with you and yourself? And I asked, what would you like to come about in the next few weeks, couple of weeks? And finally, what do you need to do to make that happen? Now, when you ask yourself those questions, the way that you choose to describe yourself, I'm happy and playful. I am a little concerned but trusting. I am just a couple of words. That's going to just be an internal checkup. And that's something that would be good for you to do every few hours in your life. Not every few days, every few hours. If I was describing myself right now, what 2 words would I use? 2 or 3. And if you talk as much as the firm does, perhaps that would be 10 or 12. But you've got the idea. Short. And when you give yourself the opportunity to think about, what do I want in the next few weeks? You're giving yourself permission. And that's something else you should be doing every few hours. You forget that when you do not give yourself permission to have, to be, that the fallback is the illusion. You must consciously choose to move out of the illusion, or you will constantly be in it. So that, what do I want, gives you permission to be the creator that you are. And then that big question, what do you need to do to make that happen? That's one of the most powerful questions you can ask yourself. What do I need to do to change my now? To have this, to be this, to do this, to recognize. And you're going to find that you get answers when you ask yourself these questions. You get answers. What do I need to do? Take a breath and start listening. Because that little voice that lives in your head is going to start giving suggestions. If you're lucky, you'll like the suggestions. All right. I wanted to focus on April Fool's Day today. Because it does not so often happen that a first Sunday and the celebration of being foolish comes together. How hard do you work to avoid being foolish? And I really want you to think about that. Because most people in this society consider being foolish the same thing as being stupid or unaware. They see it as a judgment rather than a specific activity for the soul. They see it as something to be embarrassed about. Do you know what embarrassment is? It's self-judgment. And it's giving your power away because you believe whoever is around is judging you. Now, I'm going to ask you a question. You don't have to answer, but has anybody in here ever been embarrassed even if no one else was around? You did something, you caught yourself talking to yourself, whatever it was, and you realized, oh, jeez, and there wasn't even anyone there to be paying attention. Have you done that? Okay, there are the honest people in here, and then there are the rest of you. The more you are entrenched into this society's version of behavior, the more easily embarrassed you are. You are embarrassed, and I'm not saying it's necessarily a bad thing. You have mores in this society that help keep everything flowing, right? But But when you come to believe it's the only way to behave, then you stop being foolish and you start believing false stories. I am worthy if I have acceptance from this society. People start building their lives around not being embarrassed about their upbringing, their income, their education, their fashion sense, their friends, their family. And many, many people in this world create a life based on never having to be embarrassed. And I would like to promise you that those very people are haunted by their secrets. Two things about April Fool's Day. While it celebrates foolishness, the fool has a particular role in society. And what role might that be? That's one of the things that I love about dogs. They are so happy to be foolish. Yes.
To not take things so serious.
Well, absolutely. Yes, true. More.
Being infallible is a genuine part of being human.
Being fallible is a genuine part, and they can show that.
Things you could change.
Showing you things that can be changed.
Well, the fool has been around for so long, since
Thank you.
the beginning of time. And Shakespeare's version of the fool was the only one who really knew what was going on. But also Native Americans, the Heoka, their purpose was to show people a different way of looking at things.
Yes.
The contrary. And to kind of turn their world upside down and see it from an opposite standpoint.
And that's where I'm going. The fool catches your attention and helps to change perspective. Now, that perspective might be making you laugh, in a jester sort of version of a fool. It might be making you feel better about yourself in a comparative version of a fool. But it's going to change the way you see something. Right now in your world, a fool is anybody who does not toe the line, agree with societal expectations, who chooses to step forward and create new and fall on their face and make a mistake and get back up and keep going. Because your society often tells you, well, you've made a mistake and that's all there is. Never do that again. You've learned from it, so you won't repeat it, right? Which is miserable advice.
So basically, a fool is anybody who doesn't believe what I believe. Because
No, dear, what I believe.
and in the real sense, I can learn from anybody who doesn't believe what I believe.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very much so. People are afraid to be the fool.
My sister, when she got married, picked April 1st. And it was really to lighten up everything, and because everybody gets so intense about getting these things done, and that is kind of her way. She won't take it too seriously so that everybody's uncomfortable or anything like that. So I thought it was pretty interesting that April 1st occurred on Easter, and these people are still together.
That is lovely. And I love the idea of getting married on April Fool's Day. That's a really big, don't you think? To this sacred thing called marriage. Go, my Vern.
You just have to lighten up and go with the flow.
So what are you doing that is foolish these days? And what I'm asking is, how are you helping others change their version of the world, their perspective? How are you showing that falling down and getting back up and falling down and getting back up is a viable way of getting from here to there?
So you were pretty good at getting up and down.
As long as you are getting back up, you're in the game. What are you doing to lighten things up? What are you doing a lot of words because I don't know how to do it any better. What are you doing to ensure that you are not towing the line and accepting it all as real and worthy and enough? What are you doing to change your world?
One thing that I've been doing is being very conscious to check myself not to have judgment.
Good.
So whether that be people's life choices or any circumstance at work or in my personal life, I know people have the right to do whatever they want. So not putting nice little labels on it and
Good.
not putting those labels on myself either.
Very
So
good.
having some stepping back and not just having discernment, but having some detachment about all of it.
Discernment with detachment. Whoa. Big one.
I feel like I'm doing life a little bit differently. You know, the American dream is like you grow up, you go to college, buy a house, and I'm starting to totally reverse everything because I decided to, quit my job, go back to college, sell my house. So it's like I went one direction and I feel like I'm kind of unraveling in a different way. And, it's sort of like breaking down this traditional way of being, and doing things differently.
All right, what I want you to hear out of that is that Kathy is willing to have people think her a fool because she is rejecting what everybody else considers the way to be, to function, to live. What are you doing in your life to be that kind of fool? Other than sitting here right now.
I officiate, and one of the things we're doing this year, this spring, is we have radios that we're connected with the other officials. And if you want to learn about making mistakes and having to get back up, go ahead and officiate because it happens all the time. But officiating has taught me a lot, and that's one of them, is that my team of officials, we can help each other when we make a mistake.
Excellent.
Or we're out of position, or so I can help them, they can help me, and it really has made me much more comfortable with, I made a mistake, go on. And it's a little slower in my regular life, but but because of baggage that's still there, but it's helping me. I made a mistake, go on. What can I do to apologize, fix it, whatever, but I made it, I own up to it, and then I need to go on and do something different.
And how does being connected into the team help with that?
Because I feel with the radios, there's the immediate interaction of, it's okay, we missed it, where if I'm on the field, I don't know if my partner is going, God, that was horrible, or whatever, but I'm hearing from my partners, it's okay, let's get back in the game, we need to concentrate on whatever, and it's immediate. And
Excellent.
Immediate feedback really, really helps.
And I'm going to add to that, it also allows coverage and takes the weight off of the one.
Yes.
You're not, oh, the world is going to end now because I missed that. Instead, you've got 3 or 4 or 10 or 100 other people who are right there to pick up. I actually don't see that as foolish at all. I think that's powerful. And I imagine it's really changing everybody on those teams, isn't it?
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah. And we can lighten the mood if it's getting a little over tense. So.
Nice, nice, lovely. What are you doing to change the paradigm? What are you doing? Even though others may say that's foolish, are you willing to be foolish?
Well, I think I've scared some people over the last couple of years, a few people, by leaving a job I had for 20 years and beginning doing something creative that I didn't even have formal training in, but discovered a talent for, and absolutely committed myself to it, and spent all my time learning what I could on my own, but doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it and looking for opportunities and writing a list of all the opportunities, and each day checking one off my list of applications and all this. It took a lot of trust, and I don't know if I could have done this 10 years ago without the changes that I've made, but I trusted me.
Yes.
I trusted me and what I had inside me that could come out. And I think that really, and my family's learned a lot from that, because my mother was scared, you know, she's, oh no. But I think it's made a
Because
change.
everybody knows that artists just don't support themselves.
And she was one. But I think the way it's helped change the world is there have been a lot of people, including my siblings, who've looked at what I'm doing, that have decided, let's get behind her. She can do this. And they've learned to support something that they thought was a little scary, that I was doing. And other people that are talking is going, whoa, you took an about face here and you're doing this, that I used to work with him in my old position. So it's kind of a hey-oka kind of thing, I guess.
And, sorry, Stuart, I think I just knocked it off and back. And I think you're going to pick up on where I'm going here, but if not, just tilt your head and say, huh? You did not have training in this new field. So however did it happen that you found you had talent in it?
I was playing with creativity.
Good.
By teaching a workshop and experimenting with things of what I could teach. And I discovered, wow, this is really fun and I can do it. I was playing.
Right. You opened up a door by being fearless. I'm going to try something new. I'm going to see what happens when I do this. And it worked. And it got better. And it kept working. And that's a gift. How often in your life do you feel like it's so much easier to just give in? It's easier to give in to these people than stand up. It's easier to just go with the flow than to swim against it, to acquiesce. How often are you not your highest self in order to fit in? Now, all of you have parts of your life where that is the case. Well, I'm going to talk about spiritual things. It's Easter under Christian glossary, because that makes my parents, my siblings, my boss happy. Well, Samuel says that we need to bridge, but there is a big difference between bridging from one culture to another, from one language to another, and being a roadblock. Because you don't know how to do anything but accept other people's judgment of you as what matters. And moving away from other people's judgment takes courage, fearlessness. So what are those areas of your life in which you are fearless? your truest self? What are the areas of your life in which you're not afraid of falling on your face or making a mistake? Or what are the areas of your life that aren't based on society's expectations of you? And if you think about how your life is divided up, think about all of those areas. What do you do in your work life that you don't care if they think you the fool? What do you do in your home life in which you don't care if they think you the fool? What do you do in your sex life? You have one, right? You remember it at least, right? What do you do in your and every piece of your life? What do you do that shifts you out of what this world, what this society tells you is normal? What do you do? Do you do anything? And when you do your thing, no matter where you are, how afraid are you before you do it? These are judgments of yourself, and they are wholly based in your human experience and fully shifted out of the light being you are. Who in your world can you talk to about being the high frequency focus of source in this world that you are? In that kind of terms. Who can you speak with and say, well, I'm from Alteran and I'm just visiting right now. And on this particular timeline, I have very high frequency work to do as a guardian, but no worries, because at night in my dream states, I go back to many.
That's the bridging part, right?
Even in this room? Where do you not talk like that? And why? Why do you make that choice? And do you realize you make that choice because you believe their opinion is more important than who you are? Does that disturb you at all? This particular month is beginning, day one, with the opportunity to remember that what this world considers foolish is not always right. And it's a reminder that the most foolish thing you can do is deny what you are living here in who you are. This world really likes the label unstable, crazy, needs their meds, multiple versions of not all here. And it's a bullying method. It's a manipulative practice that says being different is wrong. And you will be judged and shunned. And of course, you know there are bears in those woods, and you can never be shunned. You've got to stay exactly like everyone else. I'm asking you to be more foolish, to be more fool-like, to stop guiding your life through fear of judgment. Many of you knew Joy Landrum, yes? Many of you remember her. And she would say, why would I ever care about the opinions, run my life through the opinions of people I would not be friends with otherwise? How do you judge you? I would tell you that the way you feel you need to fit in this world, with those you work with those you play with those you live with, the amount of time you spend pleasing them instead of being you is ruining your world, personally and collectively. So tonight I wanted to give you these. They are, tonight, they are marbles. And they are to remind you that it's not so bad to lose them. Because you'll always have some spares. So I would love to have maybe 3 people serve. Come get some marbles to hand out. Can you hold these?
I can.
All right. Make sure that everybody has a marble, and then keep passing them around, all right? Come get more until they're gone. everybody get a marble, and then they're going to keep giving them out.
Just don't lose your marbles.
If you lose them, you've always got an extra, but if you lose your extra,
It's a term, you know, they use all the time. That person has lost their
lost their marbles. Yes, yes. Well, now you have more marbles. April is a month to relax, to gain more. Nope, keep giving them out. Right? Don't stop. It's not just one. Keep giving them. Keep sending them around. Here, marbles, marbles, marbles. Right? Please, yes. Pass them. Keep them out. Oop, looks like the farm gets a marble. That's good. She could use one.
I don't even know where that is.
Marbles, marbles. There's another one. Good. Who's really afraid that they're going to be so bold, they're going to be thought of as having lost those marbles and needs even more? Because they're right here, even more. Take some more. Good. Who needs more marbles?
They need more marbles? You feel, Elaine, like you really,
Frank needs marbles desperately.
Okay, give them to him. I have 4 marbles left. Who would like some?
Stephen?
I need a blue one. All right, thank you.
I'll take another marble. I got dogs.
You live on a farm, you've got to have marbles for that.
Because God knows everyone thinks they're gone.
Did you give them all? Okay, I got a couple.
I know.
No, he does that noise earlier.
All right. I would like to encourage you to choose to be a fool.
I already did that.
If you ever studied the ancient system of tarot, symbolic cards, you would know that the Fool is one of the best cards in the deck because it represents fearlessly moving forward. Be the Fool. You've got extra marbles, so there's nothing to lose. Look in the mirror.